We are the echo of a frontier people. We are the voice of a congregation that bravely ushered in the 20th century. We are the spirit of a faith sung courageously through world wars and a Great Depression. We are the family of those who have found sanctuary here for 150 years. We are the heart that longs to increase the love of God and neighbor. We are First Plymouth. We began our ministry as First Congregational Church in 1866, becoming the first congregation to gather in Lincoln, then known as Lancaster, Nebraska. From our humble beginnings, we dreamed of establishing an inspiring music ministry, and in 1887, First Congregational Church dedicated a new building, which included one of Lincoln's first pipe organs. In 1886, the congregation welcomed Carey Raymond to be the church's first director of music. Referred to in church programs as Mrs. P.V.M. Raymond, Carey was, by all accounts, a prodigiously gifted musician and a true pioneer in bringing classical music to Lincoln. Soon after her arrival, she formed the Lincoln Oratorio Society, of which the church choir formed the core. For the annual choral orchestral performances of Messiah and the May Festival, Mrs. Raymond initially invited guest male conductors to lead the concerts. However, in 1891, she became perhaps the first woman in the United States to conduct a choral orchestral performance. It is said that as she took her place on the podium that groundbreaking night, the ladies of the chorus rose to their feet and waved their handkerchiefs with enthusiasm. In 1894, she began a 33-year tenure on the University of Nebraska faculty as choral and orchestral director. A newspaper reviewer stated, "Facts speak for themselves, and the marvelously good work which she has done in Lincoln has placed her above all criticism in the estimation of the public of this city." Her death in 1927 was reported on the front pages of both Lincoln newspapers, with follow-up front-page articles for the next 7 days. After her 41-year tenure, Carey Raymond left big shoes to fill. The same year Carey Raymond came to Lincoln, First Congregational Church launched Plymouth Congregational Church, and very quickly Plymouth earned its own distinction in music ministry and installed its own pipe organ. During the 1895-96 season at Plymouth, 6 concert events were planned featuring the Plymouth Choir. The price for a season ticket? 50 cents, or 10 cents per concert. As the landscape of Lincoln changed, First Congregational Church and Plymouth Congregational Church made the difficult decision to merge, becoming First Plymouth in 1923. And, as one might guess, the new congregation dreamed once again of a new building and a new organ. Reverend Ben F. Weiland helped to cast the beautiful vision that eventually led First Plymouth to its glorious new home at 20th and D. First Plymouth's musical connections with the University of Nebraska continued when piano and organ professor Wilbur Chenoweth was hired in 1929 to carry on the church's song. Born in Tecumseh and educated at the University of Nebraska, Chenoweth quickly became a popular musical figure in Lincoln as a teacher and performer. He was a prolific composer as well, and some of his works were recently revived by no less than the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. His greatest hit, however, is sung more frequently on Saturdays than Sundays, when congregations dressed in Husker red rather than Plymouth blue join robustly in the University of Nebraska's fight song, Hail Varsity. On Easter Sunday in 1931, Wilbur Chenoweth conducted the first service in the beautiful new sanctuary at 2000 D Street, an awe-inspiring worship space recently restored in anticipation of the church's 85th anniversary in 2016. The Lincoln Star reported that a children's choir of 100 sang for the sunrise service that first Easter morning. And for the organ prelude, Chenoweth played Handel's Hallelujah Chorus, and the strident chords of the mighty concert organ made the selection very impressive. The congregation joined together in this prayer of dedication that morning. We consecrate this church in loving memory of all those who have gone on before, and all whose hearts and hands have served this church, and with high hope for those who shall walk this way in the days to come. Chenoweth was a robust advocate for the installation of a carillon at First Plymouth, even traveling to England to study the instrument. He also performed some widely popular theater organ concerts to help raise money for the project. Even at the depth of the Great Depression, our congregation managed to raise the $28,000 necessary to fund the purchase of Nebraska's first carillon. Our carillon, housed in the landmark singing tower, is dedicated to the memory of Carey Bell Raymond, who sadly did not live to hear it. The carillon's largest bell, weighing 4,592 pounds, is inscribed with her name. For more than 85 years, the glorious pealing of our carillon has called people to more worship services, weddings, and funerals than one could count. At its dedication on Memorial Day 1931, the Sunday Journal and Star reported that 25,000 people flocked to the vicinity of 20th and D to hear the concert. Two of America's most influential carillonneurs, Ronald Barnes and Milford Meyer, began their careers at First Plymouth in their student days. And beginning in the 1960s, Ray Johnson served faithfully as our carillonneur for nearly 40 years, succeeded by his wife, Kathy. Among Wilbur Chenoweth's organ students at the university were Ruth Marie Amon, who decades later donated our present gallery organ, and Josephine Waddell, who directly succeeded Chenoweth as First Plymouth's organist for the 1938-39 season. Hugh Wrangler, music coordinator for the Lincoln Public Schools and conductor of the Lincoln Symphony Orchestra Chorus, served as director of the choir that year. In 1939, the University of Nebraska recruited Arthur Westbrook to head and reorganize the School of Music. The Westbrook Music Building at UNL is named in his honor to this day. First Plymouth was hopeful that Westbrook would continue the long-standing relationship between the School of Music and the church. But Westbrook did not feel he could accept the First Plymouth appointment for at least his first year at the university. That interim season was covered by university organist Frank Kunkel, who soon left Lincoln to be replaced by Myron Roberts. Roberts' influence as an organist, teacher, and composer was profound and enduring. Many of his organ works remain part of the repertoire today. Arthur Westbrook and Myron Roberts served together as music director and organist team at First Plymouth for 15 years. The congregation was devastated when Westbrook announced his resignation, and they offered these words in a formal letter expressing their appreciation for his service. The blight of depression and drought added to the difficult
assignment that was his. Then came the war years, when many military assignments kept choir personnel fluctuating and unstable. His interest and concern have never lagged. His quiet humor and dry wit seldom deserted him.
Upon the resignation of Arthur Westbrook and retirement of Myron Roberts, First Plymouth created its first full-time music position, calling Paul Reynolds to become the first minister of music in 1956. A Nebraska native with a degree in organ from Doane College, Paul directed 6 choirs, started a concert series, and organized 2 workshops on the church and the arts. Reynolds served First Plymouth during a challenging time when the congregation voted to become part of the newly formed United Church of Christ. In 1962, Reynolds was succeeded by Ernie Bedell, a graduate of Westminster Choir College. In his 1965 annual report, Mr. Bedell mentioned his 5 choirs by name: the Carroll Choir, Cantus Choir, Chancel Choir, Cloister Choir, and the Carillon Choir. During his tenure, plans were made for the installation of a new pipe organ to be built by the Schlicker Organ Company in Buffalo, New York. However, it was C. Richard Morris, Dick as we know him, who oversaw the installation and played the dedication of the new organ following his appointment as Minister of Music in 1966. A native of Pennsylvania, Dick was no stranger to First Plymouth, having been an organ student of Myron Roberts at the University of Nebraska. Dick was hired shortly before First Plymouth celebrated its 100th anniversary in 1966, and he will be conducting the Plymouth Choir once again for the 150th anniversary celebration in 2016. Further, Dick Morris is the only organist known to have played all 3 of First Plymouth's pipe organs. Most notably, Dick nurtured an excellent youth choir which sang at the early service broadcast on the radio each Sunday. Dick was also instrumental in introducing handbells to the church and encouraging Kathy Johnson to lead the church's first bell choir. The Plymouth Ringers, most recently under the direction of Ruth Diedrichson, Jeremy Bankson, and Christopher Boylson, continue to offer special sparkle to our worship services and concerts today. When Dick Morris moved to serve a new church in 1972, a young organist from Virginia was hired to carry on the rich tradition of First Plymouth's music ministry. John Lovick, better known to us as Jack, spent the next 31 years in Lincoln. In addition to preparing outstanding choral and organ offerings for worship each week, Jack worked closely with Pastor Otis Young to broaden the church's reach beyond the walls of the church building. Particularly notable were the launch of the weekly television program Reach Out and Live, and CBS Television's national broadcast of First Plymouth's annual Service of Lessons and Carols in 1980. Jack's legacy also includes the creation of the Abend Music Lincoln Concert Series, now in its 4th decade, bringing the world's greatest music and musicians to First Plymouth. Further, Jack is founder of our beloved Plymouth Brass, and who among us does not look forward to their Pines of Rome on Easter? It was also during Jack's tenure that the Plymouth Choir embarked upon its first European tour as the featured choir at the 1994 International Choral Festival at Coventry Cathedral under the direction of Sir David Wilcox. Later travels have taken the choir to Austria, Italy, Scandinavia, Eastern Europe, Russia, and the Baltic states. It was, however, the installation of the lead organ that became the crowning achievement of the more than 30 years that Jack Lovick spent in Lincoln. Though First-Plymouth had always housed fine pipe organs, it was in 1998 that our current king of musical instruments was installed by Schoenstein and Company from San Francisco, California. The magnificent lead organ boasts over 6,000 pipes and provides a most exquisite example of American symphonic organ building.
Crowds filled the dedication concerts and spilled out into the community after witnessing the fulfillment of what now had become their dream.
It was unbelievable. It was outstanding. I was crying through most of the service.
It was beautiful. It was spectacular.
I was stunned, delighted.
Well, it's a wonderful thrill to hear it, literally for the first time in a performance. And it's brought us many very pleasant surprises.
Much larger than I envisioned, and I think it's very beautiful. I think it fits in the church.
The sound just resonated throughout the sanctuary. It was awesome. It was fabulous.
Just absolutely in awe. A lump to my throat, just wonderful. I don't know how anybody could not be moved by such an experience. Really wonderful.
I thought it was spectacular. The sound is just amazing. It has so much volume, and it's going to be a wonderful thing for First Plymouth and for the community.
I have always felt a real presence of God in this church, but never more than today.
It was no easy task to follow Jack Lovick, but two interim directors were up to the challenge. Pete Eklund, Director of Choral Activities at UNL, and Larry Monson, Emeritus Director of Choral Activities at Doane College, very ably carried on the music ministry at First Plymouth and continued the outreach of Abend music until John Cummins came as Minister of Music in 2006. A graduate of the Eastman School of Music, Dr. Cummins brought his refined musical sensitivity to the choirs and to the organ. Among the highlights of his tenure were a Plymouth choir tour to Boston and Dr. Cummins' highly acclaimed CD recording Bravo Dolce, which brilliantly features the symphonic expanse of the lead organ. In 2008, First Plymouth's beloved Associate Minister of Music, Jeremy Bankson, was appointed Interim Minister of Music, while the church cast a national search which brought Tom Trenny to Lincoln in 2009. Tom has worked closely with Pastor Jim Keck in hopes of deepening the spiritual expression of our music ministry and to bringing new life to the rich traditions of our church. There is a lot to celebrate from our past, and that rich history is thanks to the dear people who have come before us, offering their heart and soul to our mission and ministry. And today, there is a lot to be thankful for, too, as we continue to sing the timeless hymns that Carey Raymond and Wilbur Chenoweth, Arthur Westbrook, Ernie Bedell, Paul Reynolds, Dick Morris, Jack Lovick, and John Cummins have taught us. We continue to be blessed week after week by the many dear people who come together, offering their heart and their soul to our timeless mission and ministry. But the even better news is, there is still work for us to do. And there is a lot to look forward to because through it all, God has remained faithful to First Plymouth. And we have the faith to believe that God will continue to call people to our church to offer their heart and soul to our mission and ministry. We are the echo of a frontier people. We are the voice of a congregation that will bravely usher in the 22nd century. We are the spirit of a faith to be sung courageously through all the challenges yet to come. We are the family of those who will find sanctuary here for the next 150 years. We are the heart that longs to increase the love of God and neighbor. We are First Plymouth, and may God give us the faith to sing always.